Never mind. Yes, exactly.
Dear friends, thank you for being here tonight, so numerous. It's a small place, but still a wonderful place to have a discussion. My name is Nancy. I teach at the University of Montaigne. Aretigio Gili, of the free thinking zone over there, and I are very happy and honored to welcome Jean-Luc Nancy here tonight. This is the first public event, kind of prelude, an hors d'oeuvre, if you wish. As you know, tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, an international conference on the work of Jean-Luc Nancy will be held here in Athens. The title of this conference is Being Intimate Political, Jean-Luc Nancy, and is co-organized by the University of Athens, more specifically my friend and partner in crime, Gerasimus Kakoliris, who is hiding behind you over there, the French Institute of Greece, and the University of Montaigne. It starts tomorrow morning. This is a piece of information that I would like to give you at 9 a.m. at Kostis building on the corner of Academias and Sina Street. And it will conclude with two lectures. At the French Institute of Greece, 31 Sina Street. The first one will be by Daniel Cohen-Levinas, and the final one by Jean-Luc Nancy himself. This last event will start on Thursday, 7 p.m. at the French Institute of Greece. You can find copies of the full program at the entrance and on our website, www.jeanlucnancy.gr. So, as you all know, today's event is a discussion on the question, Πού πηγαίνει η δημοκρατία? Actually, this coincides with the title of the Greek translation of the book Democracy in What State, or in French, Démocratie dans quel état? Preparing today's discussion with my colleagues, we were tempted to play a little bit with words and rephrase our title, Démocratie dans quel sens, perhaps? What could the meaning of democracy be today, and what direction should democracy take today? But I will say no more on this, just a few words on our guest. Jean-Luc Nancy is Professor Emeritus at the University of Strasbourg and a most significant representative of a generation of French philosophers who are distinguished by their original interventions during the past 40 years. He is a central participant in the deconstructive approach to Western thought, a radical thinker who reconsiders a number of issues, controversial issues, such as democracy, community, Christianity, as well as the very possibility of sense itself. He's an insightful reader of works of visual culture, a regular interlocutor of artists and collaborator in projects combining philosophy and art, an author of texts on the margins of autobiographical discourse and at the crossroads of friendships and intellectual work. He's translated into many languages, Jean-Luc Nancy has attained a position of singular importance in the field of the contemporary human and social sciences. I am also extremely happy to welcome three colleagues and friends. Ilias Papagiannopoulos, just to my left, from the University of Piraeus. Vicky, Iakovou, next to him from the University of Aegean, and Kostis Stafylakis, the other end of the table, from the Athens School of Fine Arts. And I have to say that it's always a pleasure to work with friends, something that Jean-Luc Nancy knows really well. So, we will proceed as follows. A first round with short statements and perhaps a couple of questions by our three speakers. Then we'll open the floor to the discussion with you all. And of course, this is expected to be an exciting event. So even if we have to break the rules, we'll be happy to do so. Thank you very much for being here. Jean-Luc Nancy, would you like to say just a word to our friends?
I thank you very much for this invitation. Your invitation to the symposium, which will start tomorrow, as you say, and thanks to the bookstore, Free Zone. Excuse me, it's not working? But it is open. But it's online.
Ένα λεπτό να έρθει να βάλει. Σε παρακαλώ, το βάζεις τον κύριο Νανσί, το βάζεις. Δεν πειράζει.
Is that okay? Okay. Again. This one? No. Right. The door.
C'est bien, c'est bien.
So, the voice you was listening, of course, is the voice of Apollo, which I have been consulting for yesterday in Delphi in order to know if I should come to Athens. And he said, of course, you're sure. And it is a duty, and I am here. Well, thank you, and I will, yes, say thank you to the bookstore Free Zone for this encounter. I'm very happy to be among you and open to every discussion you want. Thank you very much. Ilias?
Μην τη μετακινείτε, παρακαλώ.
So, I might say for all of us that I think okay, yes, that it is a great pleasure and an honor for all of us that we have Jean-Luc Nancy as our guest in Athens and today here with us, and I would like to welcome him as well. I will begin with the questions. I think it's better if we begin right with the questions. So the first question. It seems to me that you indicate a double problematic structure, even perhaps the structure of a certain symmetry, which prevails today at the political level. On the one hand, there is a dominant depoliticization, which is linked to political technologies of power that disregards any concern about the truth or the meaning of the political body as such, even if we understand body as a plural or even as a fragmented body. On the other hand, there is a tendency among the European societies towards a certain over-politicization whereby the truth of such a political body would return and fulfill itself as a fundament that becomes historical reality. Revolution, or even a certain understanding of democracy, could then be seen in light of such an erasure of the difference between politics and the political. In view of that, you seem to suggest a different position, a position that acknowledges politics as a question of forms that organize common life, among them state would be the primary one, on the one hand, and the political question of the meaning of being with, a site of radical suspension and exposure beyond any order of organization or self-identity on the other. Is the infinity of democracy to be understood as lying in the very difference between those two dimensions, beyond depoliticization and over-politicization, in a proto-political sociality which would be no longer or not yet political?
No, it is such an enormous question. I don't know exactly from what point it's better to try to start. Maybe I would say depolitization versus over-politicization. But in the middle should be something like a normal, a right politicization, meaning a normal way practicing what? Practicing the police. But the police is I know that much better than I do. The police is a Greek word. And the big word police has been the name for an organization of common life, organization which at the same time was the way of being in common, of being together, the way of not only of organizing, not only in administration, but the space where the people, as free people, independent of any sovereignty, was able to meet each other and to make sense of their existence. This has been the meaning of the police. But this police, the first of all was Athens. This police was defined by some very precise trends. It was meant by and for the citizen, and to be a citizen you should have a certain number of characterizations. You should not be a slave, nor a woman, nor a foreigner. This definition of the police has nothing to do with our contemporary democratic police, which in principle is made from citizens. Yes, but already by the starting point we have a question. Who is citizen? Who is admitted to be a citizen in a contemporary so-called police or city? And then, of course, not to speak about women and slave. We understand that there are no longer slaves. We think that there are no longer then I think that already with the word police, we have a concept, precisely the concept of the police, which we cannot fill with something that could be compared with the first Greek police. And not even with the Piraeus of Rome, and in a certain extent cannot be compared with any other way of definition of this common space. Therefore, I would say, I don't know if we can even speak of depolitization or over-politicization, because we don't really know what politicization or what being in a police means. And I think that we know that today it can be asked if what is called the state, that is mainly precisely the organization, if what is called the state, and only on the level of organization or administration of the common life, and not talking about making sense of the being together. So it can be asked if the state itself is in the capacity to give a space for being together. Because who is organizing, really organizing the common life? There are economical power much more powerful than states. And for many reasons, it is possible to think, not all the time, not on every aspect, but frequently, that the state are working like tools of the economical power or techno-economical power. So the real police, understood as the place where we can be together, and the possibility of being together is not only a possibility because we are together. We cannot live alone. So the place where we are taken together is a techno-economical, of course, I don't know what the word culture is, or if you want, civilization place. But in what extent does this place have to do with something like politics? This is not clear for me. I think this is not clear. So I think since a long time that what is at the core of the political problem is precisely to redefine politics, if it is possible, or even to change the name. But change the name makes no sense. But, what can we do with just with the word politics? I ask you. Or I could ask in that way. What do you think when we say politics? Or you say that politics and the political. Already this distinction is very remarkable, because this is the distinction used in English. I don't know how it could be said in Greek. So, politics, meaning all the political affairs, politics that today the first minister of Greece is, etc. This politics, or the forces against. Yesterday was a strike, I think, on Syntagma. This is politics, and the political should be the sense of the political thing, the thing itself. The thing itself that is more or less the ancient polis, the political space. One could say, as Hannah Arendt defined it, is a place where people meet together, exchange their meanings. The first definition of the polis, I thought.
I refer to this distinction because from your essay which, about finite and infinite democracy, I had the impression that you are talking about also a second danger, which would consist in an absolutization of democracy, a kind of realization of an absolute democracy, which would, for example, let the state vanish and disappear. And you comment there that this was also a kind of illusion during modernity, that the state could vanish. So I imagine that perhaps I could classify your position like that. There is the politics, the distribution of means and of that which makes the political possible, but the political is of course not the state, it's something different, it's the place of creation of meaning.
We can't say that. We can't say that. But does that mean that the place of living together is first separate, and second, it is opposed to the state? It has been, you're right, it has been the main thinking of the whole left trend of modern times. The young Marx wanted to have politics disappear. You want that the politics should disappear, and by disappearing comes through all the other sphere of the common life. So the politics as something separate, that is the state, is from the departure point, is a bad politics. Or it's bad political, and become politics.
Yes.
In French, we have a very interesting way of talking. We speak of politique politicienne. Like politician, politics. And I could say it is almost, if I would say, it is cooking art. You know? And that would be bad. And good cooking would be but politician is like an enormous symptom that that if politics, or if the political become politics, then it is wrong, or is no longer political. Then, and now we all the story of the French, not French, left revolutionary and worker movement since the 19th century come to the conclusion that state cannot be destroyed. But this state that cannot be destroyed at the same time became more and more the state as the organ of the organization, of a complete organization, which itself became more and more techno-economical. And even a little more than economical, because as we all know today, the question of economy is by many aspects is a question of what I would call eco-technique. That is, we have to face an environment where technique is over present. We have to face question about energy, etc. And that is the real ground of organization. Then, I would say, after all those considerations, we have either to reinvent totally the political, and if we say that is democracy, but we know that democracy considered as politics is a form of government, and a form of government based on election, presentation, and that's all. And we know that all this kind of organization open all the time an enormous amount of questions. What means election? How elections are made? Who are the people voting? How the voting people are informed? How the way of making election is organized? No, it was often said in Europe, how much the Greek system of election was different from the French system, and how it is important to make possible that some kind of party, of political party, are able to take part in the election and then after that in the government. No, but so democracy as a representative democracy, so open an enormous amount of questions, and at the same time is or seems to be nothing else, nothing less, more and more than a way to accompany in a very fragile way to accompany the development of something quite different, which is what is called globalization, economical, eco-technical globalization. I think this is what I wanted to say. This is the book you are mentioning. I think that democracy, in fact, is a word charged with much more than a way of politics. Democracy maybe is an appeal to a new way of understanding the life together. So togetherness, and what are we doing if we are not doing the job of, I should say the name, the job of the catchment. If we are not living together for doing this job, for what are we there? That should be the question that democracy, that the word democracy opens. And it opens it with the word demos. Once again, a Greek word. Of course, we know that. We speak only Greek. Only Greek. The question is what we are doing with the Greek language, that we are still talking with democracy. And if you ask some people, what means demos? People. Okay. What is people? Please explain. To say it in Greek doesn't improve very much the understanding. Demos, if we think it as the old Athenian meaning of demos, nothing to do with what we can grasp with the word people. But people for us is at the same time quite different from demos, because people is every people. There are many people here, or there are people magazine. And it is a meaning of people. And people is Greek people. The French people, but what is the Greek people? What is the French people? Once again, the Athenian, they have a very precise meaning for, are you Greek? Yes. You, Plato, are you Greek? Yes, you are. This one? No, it's not Greek. His mother, his father, etc. And what means people? That is our job, yes. To try to not to understand, of course, what means people, because the word means what we are making these words meaning. So we have to invent people. That is ourselves.
Yes, I had a question prepared, but I think that you partly answered it. So I'll ask something else about that continues on what you just said. And it's about the relationship between democracy and anarchy. And it's not my idea, because you, in some instances you have talked about something that could be called an anarchic kernel of democracy. Kernel, noyau anarchisme. For example, in your book on democracy, for example, in your book on democracy, when you discuss the specificity of the people's sovereignty, you say, I read the passage for you and for our friends here, you say, if the people are sovereign, it is incumbent upon them to take responsibility for what Bataille has in mind when he writes that sovereignty is nothing. Sovereignty is not located to any person, it has no figure, no contour. It cannot be erected into a monument, it is simply supreme. It is simply supreme. With nothing above it, neither God nor master, the anarchist slogan. And in this sense, democracy equals anarchy. And in another instance, in this small, finite and infinite democracy, in your contribution in this collection of essays on democracy dell'antilegato, and you write, I quote you again, the point is that the word democracy seems to contain an internal barrier to the possibility of foundational principle. Indeed, I would go so far as to say that democracy essentially implies an element of anarchy. So my question, I would like to ask you to expound a bit on this idea, which may sound maybe strange or scandalous for some people. And I'd also like to ask you about you said some things before about the implications of this idea about democracy and anarchy, practical implications maybe, and also, well, there's the question about the relationship or compatibility even of democracy with the state form. And for another question might be what kind of action, what form of action would correspond to this idea of a lack or of ground or of foundation for democracy.
What kind of action?
Yes, forms of action. Whatever you want. You choose answers me from all these questions.
You know, there are two forms of anarchy or anarchical action. One is a bomb, and anarchy is anarchic. Is it anarchic or anarchical? Anarchic. The anarchic movement in Russia is known for that, for the bombing. It is at this time. It was understood as not as what we today call terrorism, which is a way, an attack to do something, to act, to produce. In effect, the anarchy bomb was, I think, only intended towards the symbolic effect. Of course, with some practical result, like one or some people dead, but all those dead was themselves symbolic for those people, as I understand them. But of course, it can today no longer make sense in that way, precisely maybe because the bombs are so strong and work in such a different way that it makes no sense. And we have a quite different sensibility to the precisely to the idea of murder, of killing people in order to show something. Okay. If we agree with that, first, it means that the first way of anarchic action is no longer usable. And the other way, I would say the other way, maybe can occurs in the everyday life and in a lot of different way of acting. Maybe we are anarchic much more than we think. Maybe we can be anarchic, I don't know, by organizing, in organizing. That's already not anarchic enough, but or not organizing or doing something else than any organization. For example, there is I could choose not taking my children to the school. It is a little anarchic opening in the French law, at least, which states that the children are forced, it is mandatory to have the children at school, but if you don't want, or I think that the French law is the same, I don't know, it was so 50 years ago that I went to school, it's not. But if you don't want to take your child to the school, you have only to present the child at a certain age for a commission to show that he or she knows how to calculate it. It could be. I think often today, because in France, but everywhere, the school is a public school, a state school, the organization of school, which is so dependent from the whole, once again, techno-economical organization, is so poor and so full of problems that I imagine that somebody could think, yes, I will do myself with my children. Okay, then of course it remains this examination and this commission, and why not? Until today, there is no sign of that. It's exactly the contrary. In France, the people are, as much as they can, as they can in a financial way, put their children in private school where it is well known that it is better than in the public school, etc., etc. Which is precisely it is, I would say, an aristocratic anarchism. I go away from the normal public way, but to go better in the way of the privilege. Then it could be a good question to ask what means today an anarchic behavior, an anarchic trend. Or, for example, there are not to speak more about school, but there are people doing a lot of things with association for working for example, for the health of poor people, for mental or psychological health, etc., with private association and most of the time without many means. But it can be that a part of a city or a neighbor can be changed, improved by such method. But I know that there is a limit for that. The limit is it comes back to only to a private, personal goodwill to do that and that, and during this time, the whole mainstream girls stream. Then I think what we intellectual people could do would be to think more about what means anarchy, which starts with what means the archy. And the archy means the command. And what has been called the sovereignty. And the sovereignty, you quote a sentence of me saying that sovereignty is nothing. But you didn't quote that it is a quote of Bataille.
Yes, I said.
What
Bataille says that.
Bataille said.
Yes.
And it is something which is not very frequently taken in political science or political philosophy, this use of the word sovereignty by Bataille. But Bataille takes the word of the political vocabulary, sovereignty, as it was invented by Godard, meaning the power of the state as a power beyond which there is no other power. But the sovereignty is, in this strict meaning, a theological concept. And one there, we can say exactly the same as Carl Schmitt. Our political concepts are theological, secularized concepts. So sovereignty is the summit. There is nothing up over the summit. Then Bataille takes this word and says, la souveraineté n'est rien. Sovereignty is nothing. And he writes all the time, nothing in capital. Why? Because, and this is extremely fine thinking, because the summit is all the time nothing. It is the end. At the summit, there is nothing. For Bataille, it is as well the summit of the head, which you compare with the volcans. But what does that mean? That means something that maybe did have a sense in the pre-democracy form of government when at the time and the culture where the king was the condition to, for example, to be killed after a certain time. Or that the king was the king, but not as the living person. In France, it was the theory of the two bodies of the king. The French king was supposed to have two bodies. One body was the body of flesh, and the other body, the royal body, which is invisible body, which is the same body going from one king to the other. This was the reason for what the people were saying when the king was dead. The king is dead, long life to the king. That means the new king. The new king is never the new, it is the same. But that means at the same time that the people are acting as a king doesn't act as a person he or she is. Well, we will not return to that, but it makes me think that if we are in the modern world, if we are so much attached to the person of the powerful people, we will consider it has been what was called the cult of personality. But even today, all the time we speak about people. How is Holland? How is Tsipras? How is Stafylakis? But precisely, I don't want to make politics here, but I read a conference of him, at the end of which he said, I hope that I will not be taken in the trend where so many powerful people are taken, that is becoming pretentious and that. And I think it was, at least it was good to say that. I don't know him, I don't make any advertising for him, but I think it is a point. It is a very important point. Maybe a point of to think anarchy. That is how the archy, the powerful people, the side question is: do we need power or not? We can discuss that. Yes. This is to talk about that of democracy. That is direct democracy. There's no power, but the Soviet, that is the council, where every people is able to discuss, but because one should take the responsibility for doing something, one is designated, but it can be revoked. It can be revoked at each moment. But at each moment, it is then and revoked by which authority? So then I think the direct democracy open quite difficult question. Well, again, how can we think of the governing people as, in a way, nothing, I mean, as people, as having no importance, no significance as person, but doing a job which is a service for the people, and in a way can be revoked. if not at each instant, but something there is something to think further in that way. But then we come back to the question about arche and arche. Is it not necessary that with the arche something like the sacred is understood or felt or taken in a way? What I'm saying now, there is still something sacred, and precisely it is because the power has such a sacred aspect that we are so angry with it, and at the same time, because he is absolutely no longer sacred in any institutional, organized way, we think that it is nothing, but not in the meaning of bataille. We think yes, government is possible. All those people are not good. Like said the driver of a taxi yesterday, president is no good. Speaks well, but is no good. No good. Good. Good meaning good for the people, but meaning a goodness by itself, a quality. How can we reinvent what I would call the sacred position only in the meaning of the separate position of the power? The power is needed because it is needed, and as a power, it is separate. It is separate in some way. But this separation doesn't make more than the separation of the symbolic role of the power. And the democracy consists to have all the means to make that the symbolic power doesn't become an political, an active power.
Jean-Luc, may I do what you asked me to do a few minutes ago, actually just before our discussion, because I'm getting a tiny bit stretched with time. We still have an hour left, it's almost 8 o'clock. If you agree, could we take a question from Kostis and perhaps then have a tiny bit shorter answer, and then move to more questions from our friends who are here?
Okay.
Will that be okay for you? Sorry for interrupting again.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You have the power. Only symbolic.
Thank you very much, everybody, for giving me this opportunity to be here with you tonight and addressing some questions to Jean-Luc Nancy. It seems that I'm not the only one from the art field.
You're not the only one here.
No. It seems that, first of all, lots of students of the Athens School of Fine Arts are here, colleagues from the Athens School of Fine Arts are here, also people involved in the making of the next documenta, so Castle and Athens are also here. So it seems that your positions, your thoughts, that your conceptions have something to say to all this. They have an interest in what you have to say. So before starting, let me clarify, in my mind at least, some very crucial aspects of your understanding of democracy in order to later on formulate a couple of questions regarding the role of art in relation to democracy. And by that, I mean radical art, this kind of art which wishes to challenge the social and political status quo. So your understanding of the republic or democracy pretty much relies on an idea of politics that is always something more than the specific social forms or shapes it gives birth to. You propose that politics in democracy is founded upon the absence of a human nature and